Amie Hamlin, what do you find makes a light bulb go off when you're talking to children or their parents or a school cafeteria person that this is a direction they should go in?
Well, in general, I talk a lot about food politics and media literacy because there are food industry forces that give people information that's not accurate. And a lot of people think they're eating healthy because they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, but they're actually not, because it's the dietary recommendations of the food industry which so strongly influence the dietary recommendations of the United States government. And so what happens is that people believe they're eating healthy when in fact they're not. Mm-hmm. And so I encourage people to really learn a lot about food politics and media literacy, and I give them some examples, and they say, that's really interesting, and it makes them think.
Let's have an example. Putting you on the spot.
No, that's okay. One example I like to talk about is how a lot of people think if their cholesterol is under 200, that they're safe and they're good. But the truth is that 1/3 of heart attacks occur with a cholesterol level between 150 and 200. So if 1/3 of all heart attacks occur with a cholesterol between 150 and 200, I know I want my cholesterol to be under 150. In the Framingham Heart Study, which looked at the heart health of a whole town of people over a period of over 60 years, and it's still ongoing, they found that people with cholesterol levels under 150 were virtually heart attack proof. And so that's really where I want my cholesterol to be, is under 150. And the other thing I want to say about that is, and the reason they say under 200 is because actually it would be harder for most people. I mean, some are genetically lucky, but it would be harder for most people to have their cholesterol be under 150 and eat the standard American diet. That's SAD or SAD. You've heard that before, I'm sure.
Yes.
But it would be hard to eat not just the meat, the dairy, the eggs, the fish, the seafood, but also the junk food, which has a lot of saturated fat in it. And of course, animal products are the primary source of saturated fat, but junk food has a lot of saturated fat as well. So it'd be hard to eat all those foods and have a cholesterol below, below 150. So they raised the level to 200, where they thought people could be in that range and still eat their food, their unhealthy food.
What is a source for people to research further?
Well, they can look at any of the science from Dr. Esselstyn, Heart Attack Proof. Dr. Esselstyn, and his website is heartattackproof.com, and just read the China study, read Heart Attack, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease by Caldwell Esselstyn. I think the main thing is to be a critical thinker and to think about, does that make sense? Here's another example of something that doesn't really make sense to a lot of people, and that's dairy. We're told to drink 3 glasses of milk a day, or 3 servings of dairy a day. And that's whether you're 2 years old or whether you're an adult. Everything else, how many servings you're supposed to have of each thing, varies depending on how old you are or how big you are. But with milk, 3 servings a day, 3 8-ounce servings of milk a day. Well, that is the primary source of saturated fat in the diet of most Americans. And even the dairy that's labeled 2% fat is really 35 to 37% fat, because they trick you. The percentage, when they say it's 2% fat, that's the percentage of fat by weight, not by calories. The meat and the dairy industry use a percentage of fat by weight because the numbers are lower and it makes it look healthier that way. So for example, if you go buy cheese and you buy part skim cheese or reduced fat cheese, you think, oh, reduced fat, part skim, that's healthy. But actually, those cheeses are more than 50% fat. They're extremely high fat. They're not as high fat as the full fat, but they're still a very high fat food. So there's a lot of sort of misleading information on nutrition labels. And Also, a lot of people think, oh, we need to drink milk for strong bones. Well, the dairy industry was told that they can't say milk makes strong bones anymore because they know it's not true. Major research has proven that that's not true. So now they say, oh, it's a good source of protein and magnesium, but they don't say strong bones anymore. I mean, a lot of people still say it because they remember it from a long time ago. So they just act like, you have to have this or you're going to die. But just remember, mammals produce milk for their babies. Humans are the only mammals who drink milk after being weaned. Right?
Yes.
And
yes.
somehow giraffes and elephants and other large animals that are very strong, large animals, they don't drink milk. But you know what they do? They exercise and they run all around every day. That's what they do. And that's the most important thing for strong bones is weight-bearing exercise, actually. And some sunshine, vitamin D on your skin. So there's a lot of misleading stuff. Adults not only don't need milk, but 60% of the adult population is lactose intolerant and cannot digest it. So what does the dairy industry say? They say, oh, well, they can drink it in they can tolerate it in small amounts. Well, I know in a school cafeteria setting, when the kids, by the time they sit down, have 10 or 15 minutes to eat a 5-component meal consisting of a protein, a grain, a fruit, a vegetable, and a milk, that 8 ounces in that short of a period of time is not a small amount over a long period of time. And why are we pushing people to consume foods that they can't properly digest? Why would we do that? Because it's in somebody's best financial interest, but it's not in the best health interest.
And how do you find this translating into schools that you've worked with so much?
Well, our real focus, because it would take an act of Congress to change something about milk in schools, we really focus on the main dish entrees. So we do international bean-based entrees. And they're homemade from scratch, and they're international. And we develop them. We have some recipe contests, and we develop the recipes, and we go through a whole big process, and then we introduce them into the schools. And we do this in New York City in partnership with the New York City Office of School Food. We also do it in Ithaca, New York, and we have done it in Corning, New York.
Mention how the foods were prepared for judging.
Oh, well, that was just so fun. So all these people submitted recipes. Anybody from all over the world could submit a recipe. And they could only use the ingredient list that the New York City Office of School Food has, food ingredients available. So we made a list of all the plant foods, and people developed their recipes. And then we had students from the Food and Finance High School who are going into the field of cooking. They want to be chefs or restaurant owners. They want to be in the food business. And it teaches them all about the culinary and the financial aspects of being in the food business. And amazing, because you met them, amazing students. And they made 27 recipes over the course of a couple days. And we had a semifinal judging.
All including beans.
All bean-based dishes. And we had a semifinal judging contest at their school. And then a week later, we went over to the James Beard Foundation and had the finals testing.
Do you remember the winning dish?
Well, it was sort of like a hummus wrap, but it was half hummus and half black bean hummus in a wrap. That was the winning dish.
Mm-hmm. The other thing that was so impressive for me to observe was at the Harlem School, at the grade school, a charter school in Harlem in New York City, and to have family nutrition nights once a month. And how long did that go on?
Yeah, we called those the family dinner nights, and we did those for 2 years. And we did them once a month, and we would have students come but bring their families, and it consisted of several components. The first was we had educational hands-on activities, 4 different activities, where the students and their parents would learn all kinds of things about nutrition. And then we had a cooking demo, and then we had a free dinner, and then we had prizes. So it was a lot of fun, and people learned a lot, and there was, I think you told me a story.
Oh,
what was that story?
One evening there was a very tall gentleman, and he was obviously overweight, besides being very tall. And I was so curious about him because I know that the fathers were, you wanted them to come, but not everybody had a father there and all. And so sometimes, especially when there was such a big man and a tall man and he was very imposing, you noticed them. And so I went up to him and I said, are you enjoying the evening, or, you know, why are you here, or whatever. And I looked up at this extraordinarily, turned out to be compassionate black man who said, his eyes just teared up, and he said, I need to be here for my children. And I tell you, it took me so by surprise, because here was somebody who really wanted to learn and to make the shift, because as he walked around Harlem, he could see what was going on. Mm-hmm. And to be able to step out of his comfort zone, out of whatever he had been taught all of his life, mm-hmm. and to come to a grade school, after school, in the middle of the day with, you know, lots of noise and all. I mean, it just said a lot for the work that you were doing, that I think sometimes is so far-reaching that you don't understand how far-reaching it is.
Yeah, well, I guess what I want to say about that is there's a lot of parents in that school and in many other schools in neighborhoods that are low-income neighborhoods, and there's a lot of parents who really care about this issue, but haven't been necessarily given the opportunity, or don't necessarily have a supermarket within easy reach, you know, all the food deserts and everything. But I have found that the families who have attended our events have been very receptive, very open and very receptive, and so it doesn't surprise me at all. What makes me happy is that we were able to be there and provide something that they were looking for already anyway, that we were, and it was just this great match. Mm-hmm. There was also a woman who never realized how much sugar was in soda, and one of our hands-on learning activities was literally showing how much sugar was in soda by having people scoop it into a glass, and we would tell them when to stop, and they're going 1, 2, and, you know, like up to like 20 teaspoons for these 20-ounce bottles that everybody drinks now. And she was just blown away by this. She just had never seen it that way. Now, of course, New York City has a great public education campaign about that, but this was before then. Mm-hmm. And she was like, I'm just going to stop drinking soda. I'm just going to drink water, no more soda. Mm-hmm. And over the course of the year, just from giving up soda, she lost 15 pounds, and she got up and she stood on one of the tables
in the cafeteria,
and turned around and said she lost this weight because of what she learned from our efforts. But again, she was very open and very receptive. So it was really, I feel that the families are open and receptive and looking for information, and I feel that a lot of times they're getting kind of the standard nutrition information, which isn't really helping people. It obviously hasn't helped people.
And it doesn't tell them specifically what to do.
Yeah.
Would you describe one other table that was popular, the whole foods versus processed foods?
Oh, right. Well, we would have whole plant foods. So we would have the categories, you know, we'd have beans, grains, nuts and seeds, fruits, and vegetables. And then we'd have a bunch of packaged, very processed foods. We'd put them all together on a table, and we'd call it real versus fake foods. And we would ask the
They'd be all mixed up.
They'd all be mixed up, and we'd ask the families to put all the real foods over here and all the fake foods over here, and we'd say, we're not going to tell you what real versus fake means. You just, let's see if you can figure that out. So, you know, they did figure it out, and then we'd go over to the real foods table, and we'd learn how to categorize these foods by, are they a fruit, a vegetable, are they a grain, are they a bean, are they a nut and seed? Because a lot of people didn't know even what rice was.
Oh, they would argue between themselves too, because no, this is a real food, because to them it was a real food.
Yeah.
It's something they had maybe every morning, or
Right.
you know, it was so enlightening. And I think a lot of people who are already involved and care about health and nutrition are shocked.
Right.
Because they feel as though if people aren't doing what they should be doing, it's just that they're lazy or they don't care. It's not that at all. They're just simply uninformed. They've never been exposed. It's just phenomenal the work you're doing.
Yeah, it's exciting, and You know, so I think real versus fake food, it's probably not even the best title for the activity. I've been thinking about that lately because it is, because even the stuff that's totally processed and full of artificial colors and artificial sweeteners and all that kind of stuff, it is food. People eat it. You know, it adds calories to their diet, but it's so processed. It's not really the way we're supposed to be eating.
Being a mother and raising a 9-year-old now, how do you handle when the children see what everybody else is eating and that she wants that too? Or did you educate her so in the beginning that you don't have that problem?
Well, this is probably not going to help you in your book, but we live in Ithaca, New York, and it's very, very, a lot of people who eat a lot of different ways there. And so when she goes to school or when she goes to a birthday party, she's always accommodated. I have people make her vegan, gluten-free cakes at the party of a person who doesn't eat that way at all.
Wow.
Or if they don't do that, they'll at least get some vegan, gluten-free ice cream and a gluten-free vegan cookie. So we almost never have a birthday party. It just almost never happens where there's not plenty for her to eat there. We're really lucky. I know most towns aren't like that. Mm-hmm. So I would say that when we lived on Long Island and I was first trying to explain to her what we ate and didn't eat, in both cases with both dairy and with meat, it happened because she was accidentally given some. And of course this was very upsetting to me, and I told her it wasn't her fault, but I wanted her to know what it was, and I explained that we don't eat that and why. Because in our case...
What is her favorite dish?
What is her favorite dish?
What do you tend to...
She eats...
You know she's going to love it if you give it to her.
She eats very simply. One of her favorite things is a frozen soft serve banana berry ice cream. You can do all kinds of variations. You could stick some chocolate chips in there. You could stick some pecans in there. But it comes out like soft serve. And it's really... We have a special kind of juicer. You can also do it in blenders and food processors too. But it's wonderful. It's creamy, it's sweet, it's delicious, and so she loves that. And she also loves Indian food. One of her favorites is masala dosas. She goes wild over masala dosas. These are a giant pancake. It's crispy, and it's made from lentils and rice. And then the filling in the middle is potatoes and onions with like some curry spices.
Oh, my mouth is watering.
Folded over, and then you can dip it in some different little sauces that they make. It's so good.
Oh, that sounds wonderful.
It's really good.
Yeah.
So that's a favorite of hers too.
You're lucky she likes Indian food.
You know, kids, I mean, you know, people say children are our future, but then they don't actually act like it. So I feel very passionate about this. And it's not going to be sort of the government regulations or the government guidelines that's going to change things. It's going to be us. It's going to be the people who care about it. And even, you know, just in popular culture, if you look at the talk shows, Dr. Oz, Ellen DeGeneres, Martha Stewart, Oprah Winfrey, they're all talking about eating this way. Because, like, as time goes on, people are really coming to understand that this is the healthiest way to eat. And even if you don't want to eat that way all the way, everybody needs to move in that direction. Because if you look at the new plate guide, you know, they got rid of the pyramid, right? And there's the new plate guide. The new plate guide is very clear. 3/4 of your plate for sure, and up to 100% of your plate, up to your whole plate, can be plant-based. 3/4 of it definitely is. And even the whole thing can be, because that's what the options are now. And they're promoting it because the science is very solid. There is no questioning it anymore. And it's so solid, and that's why everybody's getting interested and involved, because they understand when they eat this way, they feel better. It's like the cells in your body, when you eat unhealthy food, this food, it becomes you. And the cells in your body are actually unhappy. I know that sounds funny to say, because it's not like they have their own brain, but in a way they do. And they are actually, they're actually unhappy, and they cause you to be depressed. Lots of people have reasons to be depressed, but just from eating the wrong foods, they cause you to be depressed, and anxious and things just aren't going as well in your life because you're actually not giving your body what it needs. And when you eat the food that you need and you put the right food into your bodies and that goes into your cells, you feel happy, you feel satisfied, you don't feel so anxious. And it's like your cells are having a little party. They're dancing, they're happy. This is what I tell the kids. And that really seems to help them get it.
I think that's good enough for adults too.
Yeah.
I'm so glad.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
I've learned a
Thanks.
lot.
It's a
and
pleasure.
I thought I do.